the best thing you can do to help your reactive dog is to learn canine body language. This will give you the confidence to understand what your dog is likely feeling and therefore how they are likely to behave in sticky situations or situations where currently you feel you don't understand why they may react or when they may react. If you find yourself saying that the reactions are coming out of nowhere or it feels really inconsistent, actually being able to read your dog's body language will help that hugely. And secondly, once you have gotten to the point where you are able to go for a walk and sort of get your dog through seeing every dog that you meet, like you can just go for a walk and yes, you're training and yes, you're doing all of this, and you're sort of getting to the point where you need to start working closer to other dogs, but your dog is still not capable of just going up to sort of any dog that you bump into. Understanding canine body language will allow you to select the dogs on your walks that your dog is going to be really, really likely to do well with. So, for example, for most dogs, I'm talking very generally here, your dog may be different, may have specifics that you need to pay attention to. But generally, if, for example, you had a small brown terrier that was a little bit older that had non-pointy ears and a tail that doesn't like stick straight up, that's generally quite a nice dog to work with because it's smaller. It's not white. Small dogs at a distance that are light coloured can look like white cats at a distance. So if you've got a dog that's got any form of prey drive or any sort of reaction to a cat, I try and stay away from things that might look like cats at a distance, because obviously with a reactive dog, you've got that distance issue. You don't want pointy ears or a sticky uppy tail because they can make a dog look like they are looking for trouble a little bit, whether or not they are. This is why things like German Shepherds and Huskies have a lot of problems, because they're big, they've got these very pointy ears, and generally they have tails that are more sticky uppy than like either neutral or down low, and just by existing that can give them a lot of problems. You also don't want a dog that's too dark, because dogs can struggle to read a dog that is all black, for example. Also with dogs that have like a very bright eye, like Sonic's eye, they can struggle with that because it can make the dog look like they're staring when actually they're not, they're just looking and using their eyes. So by being able to look at a dog and go, right, that looks like an older dog, it doesn't look like it's going to be overly bouncy. I like working around older dogs because, especially if they're just sort of trotting by their owner, A, they aren't going to peg it over to you as quickly as a young adolescent is. B, they're far less likely to want to be honest. And they are going to take your dog reacting at them far better than a boisterous adolescent male maybe. So those are the things that I normally look out for. And then once I can work with like all of the older dogs on my walks and all the just general calmer dogs that are of more easily workable kind of characteristics, so non-pointy ears, non-dark faces, really bright eyes, no sticky uppy tails. Sometimes fluffy dogs can get more rubbish from other dogs because all of that fluff can make them look like they're on edge and they're sticking like their fur up as if there was an issue. Some brachycephalic breeds, brachycephalic even, French bulldogs, English bulldogs, Boston terriers, anything like that. Sometimes if they are really struggling to breathe, a lot of dogs can interpret that in a weird way. And I don't really know why. I suspect it does sound a little bit like growling sometimes. And also their body language is very different. A lot of these dogs, like Frenchies, have the sticky up ears, but we don't have a normal face going on. So if there's sort of growly sounds coming from what can look like a snarly face sometimes with those sticky up ears and what is generally quite upright body posture, because that's how they're bred, that can cause them more problems than benefits. Trying to think of any other things to look out for. I've said colour. Size of dogs. Some dogs don't care about size. Some dogs are just reactive to black dogs, for example. It's that difficulty to read that they are more likely to react to, whereas the size doesn't make any difference. Some dogs may prefer dogs that are smaller than them because they feel more confident. Some dogs are easier to work around dogs that are bigger than them, and I suspect that comes from a place of anxiety because, hey, that dog's bigger than me. If I have a go at it and it comes back, that is going to be that, like, I may not win that fight. So some dogs are actually easier to work around bigger dogs, so you need to figure out what your dog's preference is there. And I think those are the main like characteristics. So being able to identify all of this on a walk really, really quickly and see what your dog's preferences are, and I determine from a distance which dogs you need to be crossing the road from, trying to get away from, or sort of just maintaining, then those are the dogs that you can sort of keep yourself safe with. And then if you see a dog where you're like, yes, this is the perfect dog, I can really, really push my training here, then you've got something. Pumba! Come here. There you go, have that. Have that. Then you know when you can work with a dog versus when you sort of need to save that dog for a later stage in your training process. Rather than just working with all dogs, you give yourself a bit of a like menu on how to work through the various different dogs you come across. I'm going to quickly cover a little bit about dogs chasing balls. So if you are working around like a playing field and someone gets out with, sorry to generalize, usually a collie or a spaniel, and they've got a ball launcher and they're throwing those balls. Those dogs are quite often hard for other reactive dogs to work around because they're moving very quickly and that can be challenging for them. However, those dogs that are chasing the balls are generally so obsessed with that ball or that toy, whatever it is, that they are not going to give your dog the time of day. They are just chasing that ball backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, which has its problems, and we're going to discuss that another day. However, if your dog is at the stage where you need dogs running into your dog quickly to work with, dogs that are chasing balls are actually quite nice to work around. Obviously, do not put yourself in the path of the other dog so that it's going to run into you. But if the owner is generally throwing into the middle of the field and you place yourselves in the middle of the field, your dog is going to get used to a dog running into it and then running away and nothing bad happening, and that dog that's running into them not actually sending them any bad signals besides the fact that they're moving quickly and they're very focused on the toy. So I do actually like working around dogs that are doing that, as long as the dog I'm working with is ready for fast movement, intense movement, and is going to be safe to be in like the middle of the field whilst I'm working with this ball chasing dog. So there is like a scale of dogs that you can work with out and about, and different dogs will be easier or harder for your dog to work with. Understanding body language and taking the time to look at the dogs that are coming in and go, looks a little bit energetic, looks a bit adolescent, I'll leave that one for now. Anything that looks like a puppy, if I'm working a reactive dog, generally I will not go near it, because I do not, if that interaction goes badly, if someone drops a lead, that could upset another dog for life and create another dog with a behaviour problem. So I just simply don't do that. It's sort of the same with adolescents. To a certain extent, you do have to get your dogs working around adolescents because they are the ones that are likely to ignore that recall cue and come bowling into your dog, and you need your dog to be able to work with that if you're going to work in those environments. But again, if it looks overly young and overly bouncy and you can see that it's immediately going to run over to you, I then don't work with that dog. I would work with an adolescent that's got a little bit more control going on before I then start working with one that's got no control going on because it's fully like just hormones. I hope that's helpful. I hope that's given you some reasons to learn about canine body language, to explore it a little bit more, and to really invest in that, in looking at it as a way of helping your reactive dog.